All right, real quick. It was a good day. Nice, balmy day. And it was a good Cleveland day out there. The guys, it was good to see them back. They were bouncing around. It was a good practice, good energy. You know, Bengals are a good football team, and we got to take the next step here in our preparation, getting ready to play them. One bit of news is that Terrence Mitchell is back, and he practiced today, and he'll be ready to go. And the word is he'll be able to play in the Panthers game if everything progresses right. Maybe a week after that, not for sure, but we'll take the protocol with him. But it was good to see him out there, and the guys did a good job welcoming him back, and he had a good day. Questions?
In the post-game locker room after that Atlanta win, I think you said a lot about believe. Like you were asking the guys, do you believe? You said it a couple times. Like what's the message behind that?
You know, the big thing is it was just a catchphrase, and it was an instinctive word at that time. And, you know, the things that are probably most listened to are things that in the moment, and you catch the moment right. And it was great to see them rise up and believe that we could play that kind of a football game. And that kind of a football game's in that locker room. But it doesn't make any difference if I say that or you say that. They've got to say it, and they've got to believe it.
What did this team miss with Terrence out?
Say it again.
What did this team miss with Terrence out?
I can't hear you. I'm sorry.
What did this team miss with Terrence out?
Mitch?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. You know, the big thing is he was playing very well. You know, and he was really playing well in a lot of our man-to-man stuff and did well in some of the matchups that we were doing, moving around. But I think as a group, that group in the back end has moved ahead a lot this year. And as we were, you know, battling a lot of things last year, that was an area that John Dorsey and his crew came in, and, you know, we got a lot of competition coming into this year. It's been a really good area back there for the next man up. But when he was playing very well at the time, and playing winning football in some close games. But at his position, he was playing very well.
Does a veteran defensive coach react to the Monday night game?
You know, one of the things that brought a smile to my face is, I don't know if you guys saw Ryan Clark talking a lot yesterday. You know, now that he's, you know, on your all side in the media, and I signed him out of obscurity, and when he played for me at the Redskins, and I used to say this a lot, I bet he said this 100 times yesterday, is that it set defense back 100 years. And that was his catchphrase, and that's just something that we've always felt, you know. And I've had the luxury of coaching every area of football, whether it be offense, defense, special teams. It was an exciting game to watch, but from a defensive perspective, you know, you don't like that going up and down the field, but you did see some great defensive plays too. And another smile to my face, you know, and I don't know if you guys have gone back and found any of the criticisms that I took when I had the audacity to want to draft Aaron Donald in the first round because he wasn't a good enough player, and you know, from measurables or whatever. And he's playing pretty well. And it was interesting to see some of the things that he was doing in the game. It brought a smile on my face there. So it was an exciting game for the league. A lot of things going on. And the other thing I thought about in that game is how dynamic Kansas City is with 5 turnovers, okay, giving up 2 defensive scores and still in the game with the field goal separation. You know, it kind of tells you some of the teams we played this year and some of the weapons that some of these teams have, and, you know, where football's gone.
Is that the future of the league, though?
You know, I would say this. Typically, in all the years, there's been styles of play like that in other years. You know, go back to the Rams years when they were doing a great job, okay, with Coach Vermeil and everybody back then. People catch up. People move around. And then the athletic awareness of what you got to have on your individual team to be able to play in space. And then can you know, as a team, restrict some of those space issues. And both those teams defensively, you know, didn't restrict enough space. But they made some plays, though, too, when they had to make them. and both sides of the ball, they made some good plays. And, I'm good friends with both those, Bob Sutton and Wade Phillips, and I was glad it was them, not me.
Marvin Lewis this morning said that A.J. Green's probably going to return to practice tomorrow. Chance he plays Sunday. Do you just go into this game preparing for and expecting that he will play?
Yes, and we started that, in our preparation, some of the early things that we discussed last week when we hit the ground running on Sunday again this week. We anticipated him playing, and and understand how they go about using him and those type of things. He's got a lot of film, and we're expecting him, be fresh.
What's made him over the years so consistent and so difficult to
He's
do?
very athletic, and he has that body type with size, speed, strength, quickness, and great hands. Okay, and then the quarterback and him also, have a synergy back and forth. But he is able to separate from man coverage. He's be able to go up and get the ball with his height and his length, and his speed is rare.
A couple weeks ago, we talked about Baker. You said the next step was for him to cut it loose and not play afraid at all. And he played so well against Atlanta. So what's next in his progression?
And again, each day we talk a little bit about this, is that it's a day of feel. It's a day of experience. It's a day of anticipation. And the more you play, and when you go back and talk to any of the real good ones, okay, sometimes they can't tell you why they know what they know in anticipation. And I tease the guys all the time, can you tell the difference between anticipation and guessing? Anticipation is right guesses. And if you're afraid to guess, you're going to have a hard time catching up in this league. And from those things, that just comes from more time on task. When I look back on all those guys, I think Peyton Manning is one of the better guys that speak about that. If you go back and pick some of the things that you've seen him say about those types of things, and that just comes from the more time you put into it and the more time you have a chance to experience it.
Have you ever been part of a team with 3 legitimate Rookie of the Year candidates?
No. And I would tell you this, is that speaks volumes for, right kind of people. And, we were right as an organization, as a scouting department, as a coaching department, on taking a look at those guys. And, those are the kind of guys that we wanted in here. And they've fit in well early on. And I think back in, training camp or mini camp, I talked about how fast some of these guys have fit in the locker room that are rookies or one-year players. In the old days, it took a while for any young player to fit in the locker room. This is a young team anyway, so maybe that helped a little bit, but they belong, and that's been good.
The team has slipped to second in turnovers, I think, for the first time all year. Other than wins and losses, how important is it to lead the league in takeaways?
It's very important, and been blessed to be able to do it a few times, and it's probably, if not the number one thing we emphasize from April the 14th on. It's in the top 2. And that comes from, emphasizing it, but it also comes from your ability to do it. And especially in catching the ball, guys who never caught it their whole life probably aren't going to catch it at this level either. So we've improved some of those people. But then the other thing is how we've improved in the pocket on our sack and strip opportunities there. And then we've got some guys that out in space, even though the ball's been caught or is being run, they have the ability to focus on the ball and punch balls out and cause fumbles and fumble recoveries. And there's, we can't do it enough. We got to continue to do it as much as we can. And we got to score with some of those things on defense too, like you saw on Monday night. You got to turn some of those things into points on the boards or shorter fields for the offense and the special teams to finish with scoring opportunities.
Couple more. What's your breakdown of that you can give us? What's your breakdown, as much as you can give us, on Joe Mixon?
I see a more experienced player there too. He had our respect last year. He's able to lower his pads and run with power, but as patient as he was last year, we see the patience in him this year as a runner. would not say, you know, there's similarities between him and Bell from Pittsburgh, but you'll see some of the things on how he'll search out the back end of a run. You know, he'll be pressing it front side, and all of a sudden he comes out the back end of it. And his patience and instinctiveness have grown, and that comes from more time in the feel of the pro game and the feel of an experience with his blocking people on what they're trying to do. But that's a top priority on how we go about playing this game, is our ability to minimize his effectiveness in the game.
What is J.C. Treader showing you? I mean, he hasn't been able to practice in weeks until the end of the week, but he hasn't missed a snap. And
he's practiced in every practice, and that's been some of them. Not every practice, and every week he gets game type speed stuff during the week. But he's one of those guys, if you ever had a chance to take a look at him in the meetings and take a look at him on the field, you think he's taking every single snap. And he's actively engaged in everything. And plus, he's a smart guy. You know, he's smart anyway, but when he's not taking the physical rep, he puts himself through the whole mental process, and he's back there even in the group, and you'd think he's a coach, just like Shobes was when Shobes wasn't practicing. And the mind doesn't know, okay? The body doesn't know, okay? If the mind's active on taking that rep and playing the play, he's done a good job with that. But they still need full speed reps before they get a chance to get back out there on game day. You know, I've only been a part of, and I smiled on my face, I'll mention this one because he'll hear his name, you know, in the interview, but a guy that's in the Pro Bowl, it's in the Hall of Fame, that I ever saw as an offensive lineman at the end of his career after 13 knee surgeries, Mike Munchak. And Mike Munchak, his last year when we were at the Oilers, he practiced on 8 Fridays, and I think the other 10, because we were in the playoffs that year and advanced quite a ways in the playoffs, he didn't practice till Saturdays. But at the end of his career, he could do that. And he was such a sharp, active, engaged person, he was able to do that. And I've shared some of those stories with some of these other guys here on that kind of stuff, and that's what you have to do.
I don't think you've worked in every division in the league, but probably a lot of them. What do you consider the most passionate rivalry in the NFL?
Wow, I've been a part of a lot of them. I'd hate to say and denounce anybody, but there's been a part of a lot of them. And, you know, some of these guys have grown up in college ball, too, in the colleges. So, you know, I'd hate to go ahead and say it. You know, one of the things that was really big during the time that I was at Washington was the Washington-Dallas one. But every division has them. You know, we have them here. Every single division has them. And it's special. It's special for the fans. You know, the teams turn over so fast anymore. It's like college, you know, 37% of your guys graduate and move on almost every single year. So from a player perspective, it probably is not as dominant as it was back before free agency when you had those guys all those years in a row and they didn't change teams when I was first started coaching. But the fans, it was huge. And when I was at Buffalo, you know, Marv Levy and Don Shula used to fight and go after it in Buffalo and Miami. And when I went up there, wow, was that down there. We opened the season down there, and then we tried to get them up there late in the year so they'd have to play in the cold. But those rivalries were huge too, and they're fun.